Well, welcome to a new Hangout. It's great to be back. Or is it? Well, sort of. Because I know, like you, I'd much rather be out there, wherever, meeting people, chatting to people, you know, giving people that high five and all. But we can't do that right at the moment, but we will soon. But what we thought is we would start a new series of Hangouts that hopefully help us in this time. Because we're going to be looking at the book of Acts. It's written by a guy called Luke. Now you might remember Luke because he wrote a book all about Jesus. And that one is called Luke, of course. And this book is called Luke number 2. No, Luke the sequel. The Luke bites... No. It's called Acts. Different name. So this is Acts. The Acts of the first followers of Jesus. Some people think of it of the acts, as in the things someone does, the acts of God and God's Holy Spirit, how He works in the world. We'll see. But all lots of exciting things happen in this book. And it's written by Luke. But first...
Right, okay, for a warm up, we're going to start with some star jumps. Okay, now we're going to lift your knees, raise your arms. Okay, now we're going to do a low sprint. That's it, and now we're going to shake out this side. And we're going to shake out the other side. Well done, everybody.
The disciples were fearful. They were hiding. They were keeping away from the public, keeping away from soldiers, keeping away from, well, those people who had harmed Jesus. And although they'd spent the last few weeks with Jesus after he had come back to life, they were still a bit fearful. They were still a bit scared. And Jesus met them and he said, "Come and meet me on top of this hill." And so they went, and this is what Jesus said to them.
Go into all the world, tell everyone of the good news about me.
So they went to Jerusalem and they waited in a room. They waited because they didn't have power on their own. They didn't have the confidence on their own to tell everyone. It was a big festival. There was lots of people there, and yeah, lots of people perhaps from all around the world. And they might have been scared. But as they were sitting in that room,
Suddenly, there was a noise like the sound of a mighty wind, and they were filled with God's Holy Spirit.
and everyone started speaking in different languages. All the disciples spoke in different languages, and people thought it was strange. They were all drunk or something. But then people realised that they could each hear them speaking in their own language, the language they understood confess. I've got this app called Bible 2020. You can download it if you've got a parent's phone. You can encourage them to download it. Just search for Bible 2020. It started last year, but it's going on this year. And each day, it encourages you to read out loud a bit of the Bible. And then you can post it to the video wall. And when you listen to the video wall, it sounds a bit like it might have sounded those 2,000 years ago. People said, what does all this mean? What's going on? So Peter, now full of the Holy Spirit and had confidence, he stood up and he told all the people about the difference that Jesus makes. He told them about how David, King David, the one who was so well known to them from long before, how David had told of Jesus' coming, how David had told how Jesus would be lifted up high and be the one that God is so amazed with and so pleased with, and the one who will sit at God's right hand, sit next to God, because he is God. Amazing. And so Peter told them all about this, and they shouted out,
"What more can we do?"
What must we do?
What must we do?
Peter said to them, what you've got to do is this.
Trust in Jesus and follow him. Allow him to give you a brand new start.
And amazingly, 3,000 people did. 3,000 people said, we want to follow Jesus. And the new believers spent time together in small groups, learning from one another. They spent time sharing what they had with each other. They spent time singing and praising God and encouraging one another. From fear to life, all because of the difference that good news makes. What are you frightened of? It's so easy, isn't it, to be fearful? And the problem with fears is it can stop us doing something. One of my daughters has got a real fear of mice, and we saw a mouse once run across the kitchen floor. She wouldn't come downstairs. She refused to come downstairs. Because when we're fearful of something, it can stop us living life to the full. It can stop us living the best way possible. And Jesus knew that, which was why he wanted to do something when the disciples were scared. He gave them that big task to go into the whole world, and they might have been even more scared. But Jesus said, I'll give you my Holy Spirit, someone who will live in you. And when we ask God for his Holy Spirit, he said, yeah, of course, I'll give it to you to live in us. Then they told everyone the good news. People's fear went away when they heard the good news and they heard about the possibility of new life. Their fears were made smaller when they focused on God. Their fears perhaps were smaller when they were with one another. They were able to encourage one another. Reminds me of a couple of stories when people or I was scared. I remember when my children were very young, like they were in pushchairs. So 20 odd years ago, and I was on holiday. We were on holiday as a family, and we went to this farm. And in one of the barns in this farm, they had made it into an activity centre, a play centre. And so this was many years ago. And for the first time ever, for me, I came across a death slide. And I was like, wow. And I went to the top of this death slide. And I sat there. And then this little kid, about 8 I think he was, came up and went, "Are you going down?" I went, I might. He said, "Well, I am. Nothing to be scared of. It's great fun." And he went, "Shoom." And then he started coming back up the stairs to have another go. And I thought, oh, I can do this. And he looked at me and he went, "Are you going?" And I went, "Yeah, I am." And I went down. And I loved it. And then I took my children down, holding them as they went down as well. It's great, all because someone had helped me get over my fear. There was another time when a group of us were in Romania and people didn't want to sing. They didn't want to make a lot of noise in this village. And then we reminded each other that God is with us. That God wanted us to do this. And so we sang. It's just so good, isn't it? To focus on God. To get encouragement from other people. To have God's Holy Spirit within us. So that we are not fearful. So that we can live life in all its fullness. This week's challenge. Can you write a poem? Write a song? Could you draw a picture? Could you make something that demonstrates change from fear to life? Yeah, from fear to life. From fear to, all the possibilities of life. Could you do something creative? I don't want to tell you what. Give you freedom, which actually is the theme of next week. We'll see you Tuesday at 5 p.m, Friday at 5 p.m. for our